Thank you so much. So you were just hearing the music of Morning Edition, and it's so interesting to hear it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's Pavlovian. I'm like, where's my coffee?
Right. My anxiety kicked in for a minute because at 5 a.m. we normally hear Morning Edition music, and it's time to go to our morning news meeting. It's time to, get the show on. So I'm kind of having a moment of anxiety with that, and then also a moment of just pure fantasy. It would be nice to have Morning Edition on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. However, that probably would irritate our All Things Considered friends upstairs. So, because we do have All Things Considered, but it is kind of nice to think about that, don't you? Don't you
a little
agree?
rest, yeah.
Yeah, a little rest. Yeah,
that's right.
Tiziana did the show this morning, as you know, if you were listening. I did not, because I get up normally around 1:30 to 2 a.m. to get here by 3. And yes, that part. And so I just could not do that today. I mean, I guess I could have, but I didn't want to. And
excellent judgment.
Come here and spend time with you and just be present in the moment. But Tiziana, she has just energy that just goes on forever. At our 5 o'clock meeting, there was one time I was working virtually. And I was working remotely, so I joined the meeting from my sister's house in New York. And Tiziana was talking at the 5 o'clock meeting, and she had all this energy.
And talking.
Right. And my sister opened the bedroom door, and she looked out, and she's like, "Is that Tiziana?" At 5 o'clock in the morning, yes. And she sounded pretty much like she sounds now. She's just full of energy. And so she has truly brought that to the show, and we're so grateful for that. She's been with us for just over a year, and we just love having her. So I get in and I start processing all that has been done with the news. And then she comes in around 4:30.
That's right.
And so what is your morning like?
So actually, my morning is my evening, because all the things you would normally do in the morning, I do at night. Mm-hmm. From showering to picking out clothes to packing lunch to making sure the coffee pot gets made, all of that happens at night. The very first thing that happens in the morning is Roscoe, our little Yorkshire Terrier, tries to dodge me while I try to pull him off the bed to make him go out in the morning. And he's like, "Oh, hell no." But we get him out of bed. We get him down at about 3:30. He uses the outdoor restroom and goes back to bed. And then I'm at the station at about 4:30. And the first thing that I do is look at the stories that have been written from overnight, to start editing and getting those ready, so that I can bring in any questions or concerns I might have for our 5 o'clock meeting. Yeah. So that's how the morning starts for me.
Right. So we have an all-women's team right now.
We do.
Where it's Tiziana and myself, and then we have 2 producers. They come in.
Well, there's Rob.
Oh, there's Rob. Oh, and then there's Rob.
Yep.
So,
Sorry, Rob.
Sorry, Rob.
Rob comes in a little later.
Right.
Shifted, so
There's
the
all
5
this-
o'clock table is all women.
Right. There's all this woman energy, woman power. And so we have 2 producers that come in for the 5 o'clock meeting at the table, we call it, for the morning setup. And then we have Katie. She comes in at 5:30. She's doing digital editing. And we've got Toda, too.
Mike Toda is our senior technical director.
Right. He's in the control room, normally getting everything warmed up and on the air at 5 o'clock. And then Rob comes in, and he is one of our producers that's a field producer, and he'll go out with Tiziana for stories that you've heard her do in the field.
And he's hustling to do last-minute morning bookings, doing all the packet prep, et cetera.
Yeah. So we do have a team, and the hottest topic of conversation is, how did you sleep? And then the other part is, to nap or not to nap. That's like a debate that we have all the time. Do you take a nap when you get up so early or not? So I think, Tiziana, if I remember, you don't typically like to.
I'm not a napper, and you were not a napper, Bob. I don't think either, were you?
Not until I got up in years.
Ah, yes.
Those of you out there, Bob said not till he got up in years. So. And are you a napper?
I try not to be, only because I really don't understand the concept of a nap. A nap is supposed to be short, but I'll close my eyes and wake up 3 hours later, and then you miss the whole day.
That's right.
And so I try not to nap and just kind of power through. And the rest of the team, they are not nappers either because they don't want to miss the day. You know, when your day wraps up around 1 o'clock for them, you want to be able to do other things and have a life outside of work so that you're not constantly.
Before early bedtime.
Right,
That's right.
right. And bedtime, we go to bed like kids on a school night. We go to
right.
bed around 7.
Religiously.
Yeah.
Yep.
Except for you stay up late and
8:30.
yeah. That is
8:30
late.
bedtime.
That
Yes.
is late. 8:30
Yes.
is late.
Unless I have an event or something.
Oh, right. And then you're up.
And sometimes the next morning I'm off the show, but oftentimes I'm not. So those are short nights.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So that's typically what people will ask us when they come through for donor tours is what time do you get up and get there? And then, of course, what time do you go to bed? And so these are conversations that we have all the time. And then, of course, you're dressed like that at such an early hour of the morning. Tiziana will have her
This is how she always looks. Always.
because you never know when, you
right.
might see someone. Tiziana wears her Fluvogs all the time.
I like to wear my good shoes. I do
Except
like
the
good
one
shoes.
time you didn't.
And people can, so I wore sneakers that day, and somebody brought in a couple of donors, and the walls of the studio are glass. And I saw the woman come around the corner, and the first thing she did was go like this. Because she was looking to see if I was wearing good shoes. And I was not. So I have learned. No, for me, in the studio, I'm in there, 4.5, 5 hours, right, all in. And so I actually really try to go back and forth between sitting and standing and sitting and standing. For Mike's sake, I don't switch mics as I do that, but I'll sit to speak on air, and then as soon as I'm done and I'm editing, I'm standing back up and doing that. Just because it would be a really long time to just be in one place and not move your body and your mind, right? And get up and get around. Yeah.
So I want to let our at-home audience know that if you have any questions for Tiziana or me, then you can enter those in the text box, which is to the right of the video player, as you are enjoying the program, and then we're going to get to as many of those as we can. And for everyone else, we're going to have a mic that will go around so that you can join in on the conversation.
Live Q&A.
Yes. So we'll do that in just a couple of moments. So what we have done is we have brought some samples, some things that we've done on the show that we wanted to share with you that give a sense of what we do for Morning Edition. These are you know, because you all listen to Morning Edition, that we do an interesting dance between national and international news with our hosts that are in D.C. and California. And so every day, Tiziana has to kind of mix in with that and to stand out. What is that like for you to do that every day?
Well, so, I believe very strongly, and I know you do too, that WBUR's Morning Edition should be WBUR's Morning Edition, that you should really know that when you are listening to 90.9, you're not listening to Chicago, you're not listening to New York, you're listening to who and what Boston is. Part of the job is to make sure that people who are busy, whether they're changing diapers or they're making coffee or they're brushing their teeth or they're in their car, understand quickly and completely what's happening in the world around them. But part of them is to enrich that understanding with stories of who we are. And so it's making sure that in any hour of Morning Edition in the morning, you're getting all of that. Solid intros and transitions into what a Steve Inskeep or an A. Martinez is doing, followed by the breaking news that's happening in our community or the piece of joy that will round out your day. And as Margaret would say, the story that sticks to your ribs. I'm always thinking about, okay, what did you just hear and what will you remember and tell somebody at dinner tonight? So, yeah.
Well, we have some of that we want to share. So we've got a couple of clips here, and the first one is an interview that really stood out for us. It happened over the summer, and this was a moment where House Republicans were pushing for a vote on President Trump's tax and spending bill, cuts bill. And we got Massachusetts Congressman Jim McGovern to step off the House floor while it was happening and join us live on the air. Let's listen to some of that right now.
Congressman, welcome.
I'm happy to be with you.
Listen, you've been heavily against this bill. At this point, it seems like the bill is inevitable. What is the scene on the floor right now, Congressman?
Well, all the Republicans who, as early as like 1 and 2 a.m. this morning, who said they were against it, have all folded. I think they've gotten calls from Donald Trump. They've gotten threats from him and from their leadership, and every one of them has folded. And it's really quite disappointing because they know that this bill is devastating for a whole bunch of reasons.
Yes, so that was quite an interview and quite a moment.
It really was. And there are a couple of things about it. Massachusetts has an all-Democrat delegation. So there was no one we could call from our delegation off the House floor on the Republican side to tell us what it looked like from that side. So we had to sort of take Congressman McGovern's sense of what was happening. That was an interesting moment because we decided to do it that morning, right? So Rob was chasing Congressman McGovern while we were broadcasting. And it became clear that the only way we were going to do it was live. Normally what would happen would be newscast is done at 10 minutes after the hour. So let's say it's 7:10. I would tape with the congressman at 7:10. Rob would cut it and we'd turn it around and put it on the air at 7:45. But in this case, we had to go live. And I remember it was a long slot. In morning edition time, 7 minutes is a long slot. But that's when he was available. And you had to make the judgment call. Are we going to risk that this carries for 7 minutes? And you decided we could do it.
Absolutely, and it did carry. It did carry.
I remember at one point during that conversation, I said, Congressman, you sound angry. Are you angry? And he said, I am pissed. And I looked at Leah through the glass and she's like, and we kept going.
Oh, it was great radio.
It was.
It really was. So that's one of our more unique moments that we get to have.
That's right.
On the air when we bring you conversations every day. Let's talk about the next one. This one also very compelling. So over the summer in June, as the Trump administration began ramping up its controversial deportation program, Mayor Michelle Wu, as you know, was very vocal in her opposition. She literally pulls no punches. Yeah. So she spoke during our festival.
That's
in
right.
May.
At the end of May. We did a fireside chat. Sharman Sacchetti of WCVB and I did a fireside chat with Wu on Friday. That's like the 29th. And then with Josh Kraft, who at the time was still in the mayoral race as her opponent, the next day on the 30th. And WCVB then turned around and published those as video interviews as well.
And there she was speaking her truth. And then, but this caught the attention of the U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts, Leah Fleming. And we were able to get an interview with her.
That's right.
And this is some of that interview.
You first spoke out in response to a comment that Mayor Wu made at a WBUR festival last Friday. Here it is.
People are terrified for their lives and for their neighbors, folks getting snatched off the street by secret police who are wearing masks.
You object to that phrase, secret police. Why?
Because it's not true. It's simply false. Federal law enforcement agencies are on the streets, going through the communities, trying to identify and remove illegal criminals from the streets to make our community safer. There's nothing secret about that.
You use the term illegal criminals there, so let's talk about Marcelo Gomes da Silva, who's the high school student from Milford. Immigration authorities have admitted they weren't looking for him. They were looking for his father, and he had a lapsed student visa but no criminal history. Why do you feel an arrest like that is appropriate?
The mission of the agents are to identify people who are here illegally and have broken a federal law. He has, and that is why he was taken into custody, but he is getting his due process and is appearing before a judge to determine his fate, and that is just how our system is run.
So this was what a conversation, yes. This was a conversation that we expected might be
Tense.
yes. Yeah. How did you prepare for that going into it?
So it's such a great question, and I'll just step back for a second and just tell you a couple of things. So Marcelo Gomes de Silva you will know him as the high school student on his way to volleyball practice. That's the way, right, he got covered. And I actually went back and checked today, so he was released over the summer. Simone Rios and I were talking about this actually today, getting ready for this. We don't actually know, we have not been able to find out if they ever took his father into custody. So Simone is actually chasing that now because he was like, I want to know that. So he's following that now. And Gomes de Silva actually is still in the legal process for his immigration status, but his next court date is actually not till 2029. Wow. And so that I think is an interesting juxtaposition since he was pulled from the vehicle and put into custody. So in a situation like a tense interview like that, you do a couple of key things. One, you make sure you know your facts. You work really hard to make sure you know your facts. You make sure that you have planned for pushback. Now, you should do this in all cases. Jim McGovern should get pushback. Leah Foley should get pushback. Michelle Wu should get pushback. But one of the things that you really do is you think very carefully about where will the pushback be necessary and how do we prepare for that and think about that in advance. And then you're also thinking about, okay, we have limited time. What do we have to get out of this conversation versus what would be nice to get out of this conversation? Because you're triaging every second of the discussion about, okay, can I throw that question away? What do I have to ask now? If I ask this now, will I not get to that? What does the listener have to know? I mean, in the end, we're both advocates for you and what you need to know, and our top priority is figuring that out as we're going through the conversation.
So we have an interesting question from the audience. How often do we do live interviews, and is there a different energy that comes to the conversation when it's live? Yeah. And I know you love
white knuckle it in the control room.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Especially when I'm pissed. Yeah. Brace yourself.
So live has a very, very different energy. On Morning Edition, we do less of it. So let me just emphasize two things on that. I would say tape at 7:10 almost exactly as it's going to go on air at 7:45. Cut it a tiny bit and air it at 7:45. That's not live. It feels live. It's not live. And here is the reason. We are really committed to bringing you a diversity of voices and people with all kinds of lived experiences, which means most people don't know how to deliver a punchy message in 4.5 minutes, right? But it's our job to get that to you. And so I am not going to set the listener or the guest up for failure if that's what trying to do it live in 4.5 minutes is. And Leah's not going to do that either. Congressman Jim McGovern is very savvy and trained and knows how to get a message across. So, and Leah Foley probably could have done that live as well. But there are many conversations we do where that would not be successful for the interviewee, for you as the listener, and our job is to do that, bring you the conversation that enriches the day. And if we do that at 7:10 instead, when we talked to Federal Judge Mark Wolf, the best and federal judge who just resigned last week, we talked to him. God, was that just yesterday?
It was. I know it was. It was yesterday.
Right? Today is Wednesday. Wait, is today Tuesday or Wednesday?
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
And we talked to him at 7:10, and we taped for 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and the final product was 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and at 7:45 it was on air. Yes. So, yeah.
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 Yeah. So
You never knew that, right? There you go.
Right.
This is why we're here today.
They all sound live, don't they?
Well, we keep it as close to live as we can in feel and approach. We're not trying to trick anyone. Right. We're just trying to make sure you get what you deserve as a listener. Yeah. And sometimes pre-taping so that we can have that little bit of editing is the best way to do that. Yeah. Yeah. And then live, man, you white knuckle it. I love it. I love live. If we could do all live, I would do it. But we can't.
So another person who is very good at live and pre-tape is Mayor Wu.
Yes.
And Tiziana has had her on our show several
Regularly,
times.
every month.
She appears regularly. So, but there was one particular interview that we want to share with you that stands out for us. And this was as she was preparing to go before the U.S. House Oversight Committee in Washington. Yes, you remember. So Tiziana had a conversation with her about her thoughts ahead of that. However, this was during a time where she had just given birth to Mira, a baby girl. And by the time she was going to testify, the baby was still going to be very young.
Very, very young.
I think around 6 weeks old.
I think she says so.
She says so. Let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about it.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't planning at all to ask you this question, but my kids are grown now. They're about to be 23 and 20. But I had a few moments as a nursing mom where I found myself having to solve that problem in places that were unbelievably stressful and tense. It did not occur to me that you were going to have to solve the nursing problem while you're trying to testify before what is likely to be a hostile committee on an issue of this magnitude. How do you...
It's a whole extra layer of coordination that I think many working parents and especially working moms are familiar with. So the baby will be just about a month and a half old at that point. And so not totally stabilized in terms of sleeping schedules or nursing, time frames. So I'm trying to think about what I will wear and whether how to be in that setting and be able to have nursing friendly attire on. We're working with the committee on what that means logistically in terms of how to set aside time so I can run back and feed her and do that as well, and where my husband will be with the baby while we're in the hearing room. So if you want something done, you give it to a busy person. And I think if you want something to be focused on, there's no one who knows how to multitask better than working moms.
Amen to that. Oh, goodness. So that is something that you will only hear here on Morning Edition WBUR. You're not going to hear that when, Mayor Wu, of course, has made national news. But this is a conversation. This is something that only, I think, Tiziana could get because of your relationship.
Yeah, it's a couple of things. One, it is building professional trust over time. I've been speaking with one of the very first times I spoke with Mayor Wu was during the pandemic in an empty room, doing a town hall conversation with her when she was running for mayor in the first place. And we've been engaged in monthly conversations ever since. And we are not friends, and it's not my job to be her friend, but building a sense of integrity and trust allows you to explore conversations that you couldn't otherwise. I'm certainly not going to ask her about nursing the first time we ever talk, right? But once you've been talking for a while. But I think the other thing is having the willingness to follow the conversation where it's going. Not just have your scripted questions and stay with them, but our job is to provide you with something you don't know and maybe couldn't if you didn't hear us talk to the person. And so when in that moment it occurred to me, oh my God, she's got a nurse, then you ask. Because that's the piece that she's not going to talk about anywhere else. It's not going to be in the Globes. Actually, it was interesting. Mira became such an iconic part of that moment that some of that did come up later. But in advance, it just wasn't what people were talking about. So what's the deeper level of the story? And when you build trust and you invest in a professional relationship, it gives you the latitude to follow those threads of curiosity. And I think that's actually a really important part of good storytelling in journalism.
Yeah. Another part of good storytelling for us is making sure we have moments of joy. Please. Yes. The news is so intense these days, so it is nice to have just a moment of joy. And so yes, I agree. So we do that. And there's one moment that we wanted to share with you. This is an interview that Tiziana did with Tiffany Faison. Mm-hmm. She's a chef, and she is the owner of Sweet Cheeks and Fool's Errand. And she joined us in the studio ahead of spring to talk about all the things that are exciting her about spring foods and cooking. Here's some of that.
What's buzzing in the Boston food scene?
Oh, there's so much going on. There's so many. I mean, this really is the time. I think it's sort of like summer into fall, and then this time when things start crawling out of the ground a little bit, our chef's favorite times to cook. I think there's something about transition into fall where the produce is really incredible. Leaving summer, we get great tomatoes, that sort of thing. And then it goes away. It's beets and kind of root vegetables for a while.
Stuff you can store in an old cellar.
It's a lot of stews. It's a lot of soups. And then we start seeing things like like ramps and morels. And we're reminded again of like the abundance of the earth and the things that really inspire us. And hope springs out of the ground again.
Hope springs out of the ground. You love that part?
I do. I see what she did there.
Yeah, so that is a moment of joy. It's interesting to talk about food on the radio. You can't see it.
Yes. Okay. So I want you to settle this. I have a colleague who he will remain unnamed in another part of the organization who is convinced that listeners hate to hear people eat on air. How many of you hate to hear people eat on air?
Oh, wow.
All right. And how many of you never thought about it or don't care or are fine with it? All right. So there are more of the haters than I thought. So this is what I do. And then back on. But I will tell him that I asked that question. When I was on Radio Boston, we would do a Friendsgiving with Tiffany every year. And we would do a whole Thanksgiving meal over the live hour. And she would invite the chef. She would say, you should invite this chef and this chef and this chef from local restaurants. And they'd bring their family dishes or their favorite restaurant dishes. In fact, Tiffany announced tenderonis over on Boylston Street during that first Friendsgiving and invented a pizza for it that was so good that the next year she put it on her menu. I thought about that pizza every day for the entire next year. And she put it on the menu the next year, and she made it up to come into WBUR and eat food on air. I saw you raise your hand. But being able to play, especially now, and I don't mean now politically, I mean now intensity, right? Especially now in the intensity of the news cycle that we all live in, I think is a really important part of the gift that we can try to give to listeners. How do you feel about eating on air?
You know, I'm good with it. I'm pretty good with it because it's such a nice mental health break, especially surrounding all of the very serious news that we need to report on. So I find it to be fun.
Yep. And we bring treats in and eat in the studio too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So food is just a thing. That's all.
right.
So now it's time to bring you all into the conversation. And so our colleague, Amy McDonald, is going to come around with a mic. She's in the back of the room. While she gets to her first question, there is a question from the audience for Tiziana. Okay. So do people recognize your voice when you are in public? Your voice?
No. What? No, that does not happen. Interestingly, no, seriously, I don't. I have a very recognizable name, and so that will happen. A couple of years ago, I was with my son in an Apple store. He was still in high school at the time, and the person sort of curating the line at the Apple store did recognize my voice, and my son thought that was just the coolest thing ever. But no, you might think so, but I can count on less than one hand the number of times somebody has recognized me by my voice in public. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That is not what they thought I was going to say.
Right. All right. So Amy's going to come around the room. So just raise your hand so she can see where she needs
now
to
you
position
were
herself.
You were on air in Atlanta.
I was.
Did you ever get recognized by your voice?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. So I used to host Morning Edition in Atlanta. And I used to be on the air at in a station in Albany.
Yep.
And people did recognize my voice. Yeah. I was recognized buying a Christmas tree with my family
there
one
you
day.
Go.
And the tree farmer said to my sister, my twin sister, "Are you Leah Fleming?" Mm-hmm. And
she said, "Almost."
Almost. Yeah, because we have the same voice. And
they do, actually. They have very similar voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nope, it does not happen to me.
Oh. All right, question.
This just really just fits right into the question I was thinking. My name is Barbara Gross. I live in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And WBUR has been the soundtrack of my life, of my children's lives for 37, 38 years, something like that.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. So, it's a little disconcerting for those of us who only know the WBUR family and the NPR family by their voices. So to actually see somebody in the flesh is like a whole nother dimension. I know the first time I saw Steve Inskeep, I was sort of like, wait,
What?
It looks like
I know.
it's not supposed to look like that. Anyway, radio versus TV. I mean, there are NPR hosts, Cokie Roberts, Nina Totenberg, and others, those are the first that come to mind, who made the transition to TV. Have you ever thought about TV versus, and just sort of the magic of radio versus TV?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. I actually did television before I did radio, but I was the CEO of a nonprofit organization, and Charlie Kravitz, who eventually became the general manager of WBUR, was at New England Cable News and asked me to do a regular live segment on NECN, which I did when I was running a nonprofit. And I will cross over and do some television now, but there is an intimacy to radio, to audio, that is special. And God love TV. 30 seconds is not enough time to do a story. Right, that 45 seconds with B-roll and a soundbite is not enough time to give the story that people in public radio are committed to giving to you. And so it is inconceivable to me that I would move from public radio to commercial television. How about you?
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Absolutely.
And you've done a little TV too.
I have. Yeah. Now I love doing TV fundraising.
Yeah.
So doing public media TV fundraising.
I love all public fundraising.
Yeah, that's fun.
Actually. No, seriously, love it. Yeah, no, love it. Yeah.
All right, our next question. Oh, she's coming to you. Oh, or she's going that way.
This poor gentleman's like, oh, bring the mic back over here.
Where is Amy going next?
Over to Barry Bluestone.
Here she comes.
I'm Barry Bluestone, a longtime lover of this station.
Hi, Barry.
And a good friend of Tiziana's. This station saved me from going to jail for about 20 years after I attacked Trump in his first campaign, and Megna had me on. And after that, the Secret Service stopped calling me. But I wonder, given what's going on in this country now, does that weigh on you in terms of how you do the news and how you do your reporting, for fear of a government that attacks public radio and public television and is out to attack a lot of people? Does that in any way come into your thinking when you're doing a story? Thank you.
I appreciate the question. Shall I go first and you go second, or do you want to go first? All right, I'm going to give you two kinds of answers to that. One, fear-wise, it's not how I think about it. What I think about is great care in clarity, accuracy, and I cannot express to you how hard I work to make sure you don't know what I think on air. And in the stories that we cover and in the way that we approach interviews and who we book, I cannot tell you how seriously I take that obligation. So much so that in my private life, under very few circumstances do I even engage in political conversations. I will with my spouse and my closest friends, and that's it. There's a second part of the answer, but I see you nodding, so let's stay with the first part.
Oh, no,
you
no,
add your
I mean,
thoughts on it.
100%. Now, obviously, you can look at me and make all kinds of assumptions. Yeah, I'm not a Republican. You can tell. You can tell. I'm not MAGA. You can kind of look at me and tell. So, but I do, as you do, try. But I'm also a little bit more honest, and it is very good for me to listen to Morning Edition, to listen to NPR News, and have interviews, people that are on that challenge me to think. I never thought I would listen to Steve Bannon and during an interview, and I did when Steve Inskeep
Talked to him
remember
a
that?
couple of times over a period of a week or 2 weeks, and they were longer segments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was open
Yep.
to hearing it because I trust NPR. I
Right.
trust public media, and so I gave that conversation a chance.
Yep.
And so, I don't think we can go around hiding who we are necessarily, but I do think what we can do is be open.
Yep.
Be open to talking to one another, because that we definitely have to start doing.
Absolutely. The second part of the answer is, yeah, I think we could go to jail. I do. And that is just the job. I mean, I'm one of thousands, right? One of thousands. We are two of thousands. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for being here today in this conversation. My question, I was curious, it piqued when you talked about the editing process with right now in the spotlight, I guess, with the BBC editing
Oh, good.
journalism thing. That sort of, I was curious if you've ever been in that position where there have been complaints about the editing, or have you had dilemmas trying to decide how much to cut and the context behind that?
So, one, we have a policy at WBUR that we will not perform an internal cut on anything a president of the United States says. So you will never hear us give the beginning of a sentence and the end of a sentence and take out the middle, or the beginning of a paragraph and the end of a paragraph and take out the middle. It is policy of our station that you will hear it as the president of the United States said it. So at that level, no. No dilemmas. Now, can we have a dilemma about when the president says something or someone else says something, and you have to determine whether there is news value to that is sufficient to trump, small t, trump it being triggering for someone or offensive, or those are conversations and decisions that you have to make. Other than that, yes and no. I mean, you think about it a lot, but if you're a good journalist with fidelity to the truth and you want to make sure that people understand not only what a person said, but the context in which they said it, it's actually not that hard, as long as you are careful and thoughtful that those are your obligations. What would you add, Leah?
Yes to all of that. Yes to all of that. And what we definitely try to do when we are editing is to have conversations with one another to make sure that we don't change the texture and the tone of someone's conversation, what they said, their answer. So we should never cut so much, edit so much that we legitimately change what they've said. And you're a stickler for that.
I am, as are you, as is the team. And I think Leah's phrases there, texture and tone, are exactly the right words to understand what it is we're trying to do. Yeah.
Yes, hi. Louis Faison, and I'm here with my wife from Sturbridge, Massachusetts. And this is my first year here, actually, as a member of the Legacy Circle.
Welcome, and thank you.
One of those 89 with the two of us. And I wanted to get back to your mention about trying to get both sides of the story, hear some diversity. And there are two parts to this, I think. One is trying to find people, which is what you were referring to even give the other side. But the other part might be that your listeners aren't necessarily looking for the other side.
So, people get mad at us sometimes.
Thank you. Yeah.
People do. I remember we did, Leah, maybe you'll remember. Last spring, we did a conversation with a conservative attorney, and I am trying to remember what it was about. Remembering that a minute ago I had to ask what day of the week it was. Thank you. I appreciate the reminder. I think I will not be able to remember the subject of the conversation, but we deliberately went out and sought a conservative voice. And we gave the person's credentials and background before we had the conversation, so you would understand the likelihood that that person had a point of view. And there were listeners who were mad, who felt that was, the term you'll get is platforming, right? I will tell you, I stand solidly on the fact that this was a thoughtful, legitimate, intellectual conversation from somebody who had a point of view and was not playing fast and loose with the truth, et cetera, which are important things to do. But yeah, we will also get people who will be mad at us for bringing on views they don't like. But for every person who feels that way, there are 10 who are grateful that we're trying to bring a diversity of perspective to the air.
All right, we've got our last question right here.
The mic made it back to you.
You spoke earlier about pushback
Yes.
in your interviews.
Literally, you'll see it in caps in the script. Pushback.
When do you stop pushing back, and when does pushback become argument, which I think doesn't serve the purpose?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. You push back, you ask the question. When you don't get an answer, you push again. And by my philosophy in general is, by the third time, the person has revealed what the listener needs to know by either answering or not answering the question, right? Sometimes you just let people tell you who they are. And so at that point, it's probably time to move on. Now, there are a few instances where if this is holding a public official accountable, and this is an incredibly important moment, and they are dodging being held accountable, you got to be a little bit like a dog with a bone. But short of that, by the second time they don't answer the question, they've told a lot. And the best advocacy for the listener is to move on to the next part. What would you add?
Yeah, I like your response about pushback. We have to have it. We absolutely have to have it. But I also think that's a fair point about stepping into the realm of argumentative. And I think you can try a few times. And then after that, you know who does that well? Michelle Martin on Morning Edition. She will, isn't she good at that?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And she won't let them off the hook at all.
She does the accountability piece very well.
Right, exactly. So, but you do have to know when, okay, they're not going to answer. She has a nice, artful way of acknowledging that too. Okay, you're not going to answer, but.
Right, so we're going to move on.
Yeah. So
I actually think she's one of the best in the industry.
I do too.
One of the top
my
couple in the
goodness,
industry
yeah.
right now.
Ooh,
Yeah, you know, he is. He is. But there is, I do feel over the last few months like Michelle Martin has really emerged as a particular talent in the difficult, tense interview. I think she's got a particular talent there.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much for this. We would love to just keep talking, but we're on a schedule. Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.